Chris Lingamfelter from Robot Advisors. We have a series that we're calling Argon Insights. Thanks to the folks at Argon Co. I sit down with each of the supply chain leaders at Argon and we talk about the interesting things that are happening in supply chain, useful information that you as a practitioner can use. So please enjoy the series. Hey folks, welcome to the Argon & Company Argon Insights Thought Leadership Series. I'm Chris Lingamfelter and I'm joined by Dan Stolarski, who is Argon & Company's North American Retail Practice Leader and the most recent addition to the partnership team. So we're going to get into Dan, but before we talk about you, Dan, let's just give folks a little bit of an insight onto who is Argon & Company.
Yeah, thanks Chris, great to be here. So Argon & Co is a global management consulting firm. We really serve the needs of the COO, everything from operational strategy to supply chain transformations and execution across the entire value chain with about 800 consultants worldwide and 18 offices around the globe.
And Argon & Company does work not just in retail, but for manufacturers, wholesale distributors, everyone in the supply chain business. But Dan, we want to talk retail in this series. And we want to tap into your insights as an expert. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. I've really been in retail my entire career. I started my career as a merchant at Target Corp. And really got the retail bug then, and I've since been in management consulting. Really broad focus across retail and consumer operational strategies, operating model redesigns, supply chain transformations, distribution strategies and planning and so forth. So cover kind of the broad spectrum of retail.
Excellent, excellent. So we sit here at the beginning of 2025. Last year was a challenging year for retail with store closures and just a lot of pressures, both internal and external. How do you view the landscape?
Yeah, I think, look, I think retail is at a very interesting pivotal moment. There's a lot of external forces that are shaping how retailers respond and evolve their business models. And then obviously there's the consumer preferences and changing needs of the consumer. And so I think, like you said, 2024 was an interesting year. Many retailers didn't do a whole lot of big spend on major strategic initiatives. A lot of retailers, really focused on keeping the lights on. I personally do believe that 2025 is going to be a year of retail transformation, and it's going to be driven by a lot of factors. On the external aspect, you have geopolitical concerns. That's really, making retailers reevaluate where they source their goods from, the cost of that transportation coming in. The consumer is constantly changing and evolving and really driving the way that she decides to engage with the retailer and the brand. The continued rise of omni-channel or unified commerce and more and more different channels, including social commerce now, where someone like my daughter would order something from an Instagram as opposed to directly with the brand. The role of the store is going to continue to evolve. Like you said, we had a lot of store closures last year, about over 7,000 announced store closures in the US, about 45 retail bankruptcies announced last year. And to me, what that signals is there's two things happening in the retail industry. One is you have the continued, what I call, right-sizing of the stores. The store is not dead. Anytime I hear the deadline that the store is dead, I really don't like to hear that, because there's a role for the store. In fact, Gen Z values a store visit more so than some of the prior generations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like our daughters. So the role of the store is going to continue to evolve, more experiential-based type of experience within the store, the continued rationalization of the store footprint as well as the store formats. And so I think those are some of the big trends that we're going to continue to see. Data, more data. And a lot of retailers are struggling with, how do I harness all that data and actually get to insights?
And I guess that leads to investments in IT and systems.
Absolutely. So across the board, when you look at your operational value chain, whether that's in merchandising, assortment planning, or demand planning and supply planning, what we call advanced planning solutions, or logistics, transportation, warehouse management, today's commercial tools out there, offer a lot of greater sophistication in terms of helping retailers and brands really enable those operational initiatives.
So Dan, if I was a small to mid-size national retailer, especially, let's say specialty retailer, I'm the chief operating officer, where would you suggest I look for the biggest projects that can have the best payback in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've seen some of this in the recent years, and I truly do believe we're going to see more of this in 2025 and beyond, but I think there's going to be focus in a number of areas. I said, the store network, the store formats, and the overall footprint. I think that's going to always continue to be a focus. Even with healthy retailers, there's always a need to reevaluate, do I have the right locations? Do I need to rationalize some of that? So that's always going to be the focus. Format is going to be another one. Within the four walls of a store, all of your operational procedures and efficiencies, right? So there's going to be a lot of focus on how do I get better standards in the stores, optimize labor, productivity, and efficiencies, and so forth. On the broader supply chain front, so retailers will continue to reevaluate their physical network. Everything from how goods are imported, and then obviously their outbound network of distribution centers, regional DCs, and so forth, and how that then network enables my omni-channel fulfillment, right? And we'll talk more about that in another episode. So I think some of those operational things are in play. And then obviously systems, you mentioned systems, right? A lot of retailers, it's amazing how many companies are still running on spreadsheets. And with the proliferation of data, and you got AI getting into more and more applications, you can't continue to ignore how do you harness data, and how do I make the most of the data and the insights. So I think there's going to be more investment in that.
So Dan, how can Argon help if I were let's say a chief operating officer?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, I mean, so we really start with operational strategies and really helping companies identify for any strategic agenda or initiatives, what is that operating model that I need in place, right? So that's really the first thing that we work with our clients on, and identifying the various operational capabilities that I need in place. Once I do that, we would go into an operating model design, and that's when we really look at areas across the various capabilities. What does my network need to look like? What do I need to do from a process perspective, people perspective, technology perspective? Build the business case, right? I think it's very important to build the business case for any investment that you're going to make, and have a very clearly articulated value case for these are the investments I'm going to make, and these are the benefits that I expect to achieve from those. So I think it's important. And everything across the functional areas across the supply chain, everything from planning to logistics to transportation to warehouse optimization to helping retailers establish 3PL relationships and so forth.
Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate you spending some time with us and sharing your expertise. Folks, be sure you're following Argon Company so that you catch all of our Insight series. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.